Hello, vinyl community. Tony here. Tony's LPs are us, and I've got one of the holy grail stories that you hear about. Out in the wild, you find a butcher cover, you find a rare Hendrix mono, you find the mono girls from girls Hendrix album in somewhere in the wild at a flea market or a yard sale. So this is my story, and as the title shows, it involves Led Zeppelin II, and it was an RL. So I'm going to tell you a little story about that, and I'll show you the record, and I'll go over my review of the record and my astonishment when I actually got it home and heard it, and then we'll discuss. So just going to have a Miller. I read once that Zeppelin on tour at a Holiday Inn somewhere, down the Jersey Turnpike, probably at Holiday Inn. They were probably on the way to New York or Philly. Had, like 8 kegs of Miller delivered because they were going to be there for a day and a half. So here's Miller. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm sure it was some type of intoxicant, probably Jack as well. So, this was before the internet. This is going back, I'm thinking 10, 15 years. I wasn't even privy to some of these, grails at the time. People, when I was growing up, people didn't talk about pressings. We kind of knew there were the pressings from England or from the UK were superior. Those were first generation. The tapes, the bands were from the UK. So you assume that the tapes were first generation. I think the vinyl was better, maybe 70s than in UK, in Europe, definitely Germany and Japan, than they were in America. America had petroleum issues, and the record companies were using cheaper vinyl. Rumors were that they were putting ground up paper into the vinyl vat, and all that got into our vinyl. And a lot of the manufacturers in this country had noisy vinyl, and it's true. A lot of the vinyl from the 70s that I have noise in them, and it's not that they're worn; it's just that the vinyl is noisy. Cheers. So this is going back maybe 15 years, and I we didn't have the internet, or the internet was young, but I would look in this newspaper that came out and would advertise yard sales, flea markets, garage sales, things like that. So I remember seeing the title record sale, tent record sale this weekend. So I checked it out. It was a Saturday. It was Friday and Saturday. And even if I had to go to work late, I would go to the Friday sale early and try to get in early. And usually I would be able to get in early if the owner was there or the people running it. I tell them I have to go to work at 9 or 10, and they would say, well, come in if you want to. I'm just looking for records, so come on in. So anyway, I did this, and I went on a Friday. It's a huge tent sale, and the people running it seemed very knowledgeable. The prices were a little high at the time for what I considered almost internet prices for a yard sale. They weren't yard sale prices. There wasn't dollar bins, there weren't $2 records. There was no junk. There was a lot of Kiss, a lot of Beatles, a lot of Stones, a lot of punk bands like the Ramones, Blondie. And I remember specifically because I ended up buying some Kiss records as well. I got a good deal because I kind of bundled, maybe spent at the time $60, which 15, 20 years ago was a lot for what I consider a yard sale, but it was a tent sale, and the persons running it knew what their records were, supposedly what they were worth, except for this one record. So I go to, the heavy metal section. They have, Metallica, and I'm not interested. They have Prog. I'm not interested in a lot of Rush and things like that. So I look through and I see some Zeppelin 3, Zeppelin 1, and I see a Zeppelin 2. And it was marked just like this. This is the original shrink that was on the cellophane, not the original, but the one he had it in. It said it was originally 12, and I guess it didn't sell like a couple times, and it was marked down to 8. And it said LP plays VG plus minus, and I never use VG plus minus. It would either be, VG plus with an explanation or whatever, but VG plus is not something I use. So I looked at the record, and there it is. And the jacket was in relatively good shape. It's the dark brown Zeppelin II. And you know where I'm going with this, right? Here's the inside. Spine is nice, okay, for a record from '69. Spine is nice, stereo, the domestic press. So, I'm looking around. I look at it. I'm going, okay, Zeppelin II. Let me see. And I look and I scrutinize it, and I see inside the dead wax RL, really small SS, okay, and on the other side RL SS, okay, and then which I didn't know until I got home, but there's also M. So this is a Monarch Sterling Sound RL both sides. And there's some scratches on it. You may not be able to see it here, but like the person who graded it said, VG plus plays VG plus, didn't say appears VG plus, because it doesn't. It's more of a VG, but high gloss, no spindle wear here. No spindle wear there, and that's it. I can't show you the markings based on this camera here, but it's an RL, both sides sterling. So I saw that, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Now, of course, I knew what the record was worth back then. The record was probably worth in the 300s, back then, or maybe more. I have never seen one. I've since found some, and I'll tell you those stories as well, which are just as cool. So I put it in my pile. I go to the guy, and normally I would try to work out a bundle deal, but I felt kind of guilty, and I didn't tell him this is an RL. He may have not even known, but I'm sure that he would have pulled the record, because, like I said, he had everything priced appropriately. He had Kiss Alive 2 for maybe $25. He had first Ramones on Sire for maybe $25. He had the White Album for $20. He had Hey Jude, Beatles Hey Jude on U.S. domestic Apple, I guess, for $15-20. And the prices weren't cheap, but this was a bargain, obviously. And had it not been an RL, I wouldn't have bought it, because I could find, at that time, you were finding Zeppelin records, not in this condition. You were finding Zeppelin records between $10 and $15 that were in excellent condition. So when I got home, and let me tell you what I did. I had about $70 or $80 worth of records. I bought some other albums. I bought 7 or 8 other albums, and I just, whatever the price was, I paid it, because I had this Grail in my hand for $8. Originally 12. And here's the originally 12, marked down to 8 for whatever reason. Like I said, it probably didn't sell. So people looked at it. I got there on a Friday. Had I got there Friday afternoon, definitely Saturday would have been gone. And for those out there that are vinyl hunting, and like I've always said, record collecting is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So if I go to a yard sale, or if I go to a flea market and I find one record, I consider it a success. I don't like to walk away empty-handed, because I made the drive. I spent money on gas. I spent time. I get up early to get early. And a lot of times they're busts. A lot of time, some yard sales or some garage sales, estate sales, they sell the records before this estate sale happens. Someone calls them up, I'll give you X amount of dollars, And the people who do it legitimately wait in line, get there early, you get inside, and the records are gone. And I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you guys out there. But it's all part of the hunt. It's all part of the hunt. So what I'm saying is, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So just stay the course. And like I said, if you get one record that you're happy with, or two records, or five records, and not a whole collection, that's fine. You're going to find the records, and someday you'll find something like this because they're out there. People do not know. And for the Zeppelin, I brought out. I moved Elvis, and Bronson came. It's Pierce Brosnan from the James Bond series. This is Pierce from the DVD stand-up that I have. So I brought him on, and just to support me in this endeavor. So that's my RL Sterling Sound Monarch. It's an M, a big M on both sides. So if you see this record, the original Sterling Sound is not what the Sterling Sound is later on. It's really tiny. It's hard to see. I'm not even sure if I saw the Sterling Sound initially on both sides. I saw the RL. That was enough. When I got back and did some research on it, I learned about the Monarch, because, like I said, this was early on, where 15 years ago, more than that, these Led Zeppelin II stories were not out there. Now everyone knows. Everyone was going to look. Every record store that I go to, if they get an RL in a collection, it's on the wall. RL, Sterling Sound, both sides. RL one side, Monarch, non-Monarch. So that's the story. And the review. I put this record on, cleaned it with VPI 6.5. It's all I use. Cleaned it a couple times with the, ran it through the vacuum a couple times. Rinsed it off with pure distilled water. I never use alcohol. I only use a mixture of a solution that I buy and make by the quart. And cleaned it twice, rinsed it, and let me tell you, as soon as you drop the needle, you're in special lands. You're up there in the as Sinatra say, rarefied air. You're up in rarefied air, and just tremendous. I actually get the chills talking about it. I would demo it when people came over, and we would go over it back and forth. And then when the reissues came out that Jimmy Page had introduced, we found out that they were digital files, and there's no comparison. This is such a hot mix. And if you don't know the story of the RL, you young whippersnappers out there, it's all over the internet. Look it up. Robert Ludwig cut it. Either the uncle or the owner of Atlantic Records, niece or daughter, took the cut home, played it on a small children's record player, and the thing was jumping all over the place. The bass was just too hot. And I think it was Armand, and he said, cut that, pull those back. We're going to redo it. We're going to EQ it down. We're going to take out that bass and pull all the records that were out there, because they didn't want the returns. He assumed, these records were going to come back in droves. If they sold 500,000 copies pre-sale, 500,000 copies were going out, 300,000 copies were going to come back. And he said, pull them. And luckily, they all weren't pulled. They were out there in the wild, and they were sold. And they turn up. And I have two more stories about RLs that I found in the wild. So hit the comment button if you want me to tell those right away. I could wait. I hate to, it's almost like I'm kind of boasting about this, but this is one of the best sounding records that I own for an OG pressing. And speaking of OG pressings, my segment where I do an OG pressing with audio qualities, that's this one here, OJ's Survival. This is pure soul and funk and just great vocals. And here's the OJ's on the back. And on this record, this still has a shrink on it. It has the OJ's Give the People What They Want, Make Me Love You, Survival, Where Did We Go Wrong? Never Break Us Up. And this is from, has a sticker on it from Two Guys Department Stores. And this is a beautiful pressing on a green Philadelphia Sound, distributed by Columbia, CBS. And this is still in the shrink. And this artwork rivals the Funkadelics and the Parliaments, and I guess that's where they got it. I haven't studied it, but I'm sure it kind of looks like Dante's Inferno on here. So they did survive. The OJs are one of my favorites out of Philly. So that's my OJ original pressing that has audiophile qualities. And that's my story about my lucky find where I found a Grail at a tent sale because I got there early. I knew my records. I knew what to look for. And I was able to get what I consider a find of a lifetime. So thanks a lot. Keep rocking. Please subscribe. And we'll talk more later. And if you have comments about this Grail, or if you found Grail similar type of situation, please let me know. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Keep rocking. Peace.